Welcome to VB in Conversations. I'm joined by Kamran Ziaee, Senior VP of Technology Strategy and Global Infrastructure. Welcome, Kamran.
Thank you, Matt. It's good to be with you.
What are the most important trends that you're seeing right now as it concerns your data center strategy, Kamran?
Oh, I think, it's a great technology is growing very fast. One of the biggest things that we see actually is probably not new to anyone is artificial intelligence and the use of AI really in our data centers. At Verizon, we are no stranger to AI. We've been actually incorporating AI in our network, in our customer service, almost every corner of our business. And actually now, for the past few years, we've been incorporating those also into our data center infrastructure in terms of predictability, understanding our capacity, and also, when it comes to AI ops and self-healing, predictive maintenance, that type of stuff, we are actually making strides in these areas. We are not there yet, 100%, but almost every quarter on quarter, we add additional features and functionalities into our space. So it's a very exciting time for us.
You keep coming back to the customer and how the company is focused more on the response time for users and customers versus, say, the response time of the system. Can you comment on what are the top 3 or 4 variables that are directly driving down that response time for customers when it comes to the data center investments that you're making?
On the system side of that, as I was mentioning, there are a number of things that we incorporate. One is, of course, we make sure that, again, when it comes to our production systems, when it comes to our mission critical systems, we have a refresh cycle for our servers to make sure that, we have the latest and the greatest bare metal basically in place. That is something that we stay on top of. Making sure also we've pivoted away from some of the traditional disk storage, spinning disks into solid state disk storages in our storage area network. That has increased the response time quite a bit in terms of the latency of those systems. And of course, optimizing the systems themselves. As I mentioned before, we have gone pretty much, 80%, up to 80% of our data centers are virtual. There are virtual machines, and we use also containers to maximize those resources, making sure that at any given time, we allocate as much resources as possible to the applications that are using them. So obviously, mission critical applications that have a lot of impact on our users, they come first. Non-production, environments, a little bit maybe a secondary or tertiary product priorities.
You around the response time again. If you have this consolidation strategy, you've gone from 9 data centers, I think, from several years ago down to 5. You mentioned now down to 3. I was just going to ask, and maybe this dovetails into the systems question, but how does that correlate to your desire to bring down response times?
From a data center perspective, you're right. We actually went from I think 7 data centers, IT data centers, down to 3 by middle of next year. That will be completed. That will give us geodiversity within the footprint that we have, with disaster recovery sites, making sure that we have an adequate amount of space in each data center. It keeps the maintenance a little bit lower in terms of, the data centers themselves. Obviously, that there's a good bit of cost savings. And of course, we invest heavily in the 3 directional data centers. From a response time perspective, I don't think there's a huge gain going from 7 to 3. I think that wasn't the exercise. The exercise was really more consolidation and efficiency within the organization.
Yeah, how do you deal then with this separate move to edge applications and compute on the edge? You've talked about your MEC investments as an important way to keep latency down on the edge. Can you talk a little bit about what you're specifically doing there?
Absolutely, yeah. That's we provide a public and also private mobile edge compute platform to our customers. We have some larger enterprises who are actually currently using this technology. using 5G and mobile edge compute. Actually, internally as well, Matt, we use it. We kind of like to drink our own champagne. We also have the same technology used internally by a few use cases. Our supply chain is using our private MEC technology. We here in actually select buildings, we have a facial recognition for employees. It's an opt-in. They have to opt into it for privacy reasons again. But facial recognition uses a MEC technology, private MEC technology for authentication. So we have a few of these technologies actually for our customers and also for internally.
You've mentioned your strategy around resource management when it comes to using the private or public cloud or your virtual cloud depends on the special application that is being used, or this whether that app is elastic or not. Do you see a trend toward more or less elasticity, and what does that mean for the trend toward or away from public cloud investments?
Matt, that's a great topic and very close to my heart, because one of the things that I'm striving our organization to become is an infrastructure as a service to our internal stakeholders, which means that, I don't want our stakeholders to worry about whether the application that they want to run, our CIOs, our typical our stakeholders, or our 4 CIOs, I don't want them to worry about whether this thing should be, how much resources it needs, how do I care for this application, is it going to run on public cloud, is it going to run on-premise, where we call private cloud, where should it be running? We want to provide a kind of a lights-off operation, all automated and very clear and transparent process to provision those resources for our stakeholders. We have a slogan internally. We say the right cloud for the right workload. That's our slogan. And what it means really is that we as we look at the application with the application owners, we see how this application, is it a cloud native application? Yes or no? If it's not, then okay, fine. Can it run on a container? How do we make it cloud ready? And if it is cloud ready, you can still run it on-prem, by the way. It doesn't have to be on a public cloud. But we look at elasticity. If we have to build a huge infrastructure to house these applications that have a peak time of no more than a couple of weeks a year, and we have some of those things, and our busy seasons, there's a few weeks a year that they're busy. The rest of the time, the utilization is very low. There's no sense in actually allocating a lot of resources to those applications when they're not being utilized. So that elasticity that we have in the cloud with these types of applications, we also want to replicate in on-prem. And now we are actually doing some testing with some technologies where we can also account for this elasticity of applications. So we can allocate dynamically compute and storage to these applications when the peak goes high, and as the peak comes down, it can take those resources away and allocate to other applications. So we are moving more and more towards these types of technologies, lights off our operation, as I mentioned before, and then balance between what can go on the cloud, what can go on the on-prem. There are security considerations also when it comes to choosing between the two of them. Those things we're going to provide, we're moving towards providing those as a service to all of our stakeholders internally.
Yeah, it makes sense to optimize the hardware that you have in the ecosystem. And you said there's no problem with legacy hardware in that regard. There was a recent report from Meta I found interesting where, how it's using high performance silicon, and that's requiring a whole rethinking of its data center architecture, including new cooling systems. Is that sort of investment really a problem for the Metas and Googles and the Microsofts and Amazons of the world, or are you seeing that as well at Verizon?
We don't create our own hardware. We don't invent our own hardware. We have partnerships with a lot of good and solid companies out there who provide these hardware for us. One thing that you brought up that is very interesting, and I wanted to also touch base on that one, is part of our responsible data centers is also reducing our carbon footprint, making sure also that we have a very good, decreasing cost of utilities as we go forward. And we are very focused on that. Now we are, our criteria maybe 5-6 years ago, may not have been, the power usage of our systems on top. It would have been probably the processors or the architecture of the system, and if it was compatible to our applications. Now, one of the key criteria we look at is, okay, how is the power consumption on these platforms? What is the carbon footprint of these? How does it help for us to reduce our carbon footprint, also bring our utilities costs down? So those are now not only in our compute storage platform, but also that data center environment, as we also worry about space, cooling, and power. How do we optimize those as well? So, and we're going in there, and actually, I think year on year, we are, as again, end of service life comes for some of the legacy environments, we're replacing those with newer technologies that do have a lower carbon footprint, lower utility consumptions, and so forth. So that's a big thing for us as well.
Kamran, thanks. I'm going to throw you a curveball. We like at VentureBeat asking another question, which is, what are the sorts of things you're seeing in your work life right here at Verizon? All these technology issues we've just been talking about. What sort of lessons are you taking back to your private life?
Oh, that's a great question. I tell you, I love what I do. And I'm not saying this because I'm talking with you and, I'm on the record. We provide communication services to the world. And we have kind of broken down barriers between people. What is more powerful than that? There is nothing more powerful than connecting people, and that's what we do. And as a company, as an industry, I can't think of anything that is more meaningful than connecting people together. That to me is so energizing that not only I take it home, I take it everywhere. It's a fantastic thing to be a part of. Thanks for asking that question, Matt.
Yeah, Kamran, well, look, thanks for joining us and take us on that journey and all those investments you're making in the data center and what it means for connecting people. Thank you.
It was my pleasure, Matt. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And thank you for watching. Remember to check out VentureBeat.com for more stories about the tech revolution. Subscribe to our newsletters and check out our other VB in Conversation videos at VentureBeat.com.